Hello everybody, it's your favorite 4'12" YouTuber, and today we're going to be discussing a recent webtoon that I have read. It has absolutely, quite literally, blown my mind. You see, I read a lot, and I mean a lot, of bad manga, isekai stories with over 1,000 chapters, but I haven't really dove that deep into the iceberg that is webtoons. Now, if you don't know what a webtoon is, it's kind of like a manga, but it has color, it has more verticality, and it's usually drawn on a computer, giving these much more digital-like, sometimes cleaner and smoother, insane depictions of art. You might have heard of Solo Leveling. It was a webtoon. Same thing with Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint, Tower of God, Sweet Home, the list goes on. But I recently found this webtoon called Eggnoid, and wow, this story blows all of the previous ones out of the fucking park. And not because it's good. Now you guys might be wondering, what can make this story so bad that it gives Adrian, it makes you say that? Well, if I could describe this story in one word, it would be a mother falls in love with her adoptive son who hatched from an egg. Wait, that wasn't a single word. Eggnoid is about a high schooler named Karana finding an egg in her room that literally hatches into a super hot and handsome guy, but he has the brain capacity of a child. And this story is her raising the boy like it's her son until eventually in like season 3, they get into a relationship. And I read almost every single chapter of this story, all 166, plus I think I have 80 left to go. Now, before I start this video, I do want to say, before you get your pitchforks, please do not incite hate or send hate to the author. I think Eggnoid is a pretty decent story. I like the art. I like how it kind of develops over the story and how the artist gets better. And I actually kind of like the story. Some parts of it, but I'm also making this video because Eggnoid, in my opinion, is really weird. There's moments where I'm like, wow, that's an insane story plot point that I didn't see. Wow, there's action and there's fight scenes, and I feel like I'm gonna die too. But then at some moments where I'm enjoying the story, the next scene will literally feel like I'm watching someone being groomed right in front of me. And so yeah, today we're gonna be talking about Eggnoid, the webtoon. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video because I have 0 subscribers. And hey, if you subscribe, I'm not gonna force you guys because I know that's a lot of work for you. But if you do subscribe, I will give you a very special present in my next upload, but only for my subscribers. So anyway, let's get into this mess that is Eggnoid. So in chapter 1 of season 1, Eggnoid starts off with Karana, nicknamed Ran, confronting her childhood friend Ulfi on whether or not he and another girl named Grace are dating. Now, just from that first starting sentence, we have a lot to digest here. First of all, Ulfi? Really? Like, imagine carrying your child for 8 months and you nickname him Ulfi. Hey, I mean, personally, I've never met an Ulfi in my life. And honestly, if I did and he looked this tall and handsome and brooding and had dark hair, blessing in disguise for me. I do not need the extra competition as a 4'12" man. But anyway, Ran goes home and she's crying. She thought that Ulfi was gonna marry her. They were childhood best friends and, you know, turns out he was a prick. And as she's crying in her room, she wishes that someone would cure this loneliness that she has. And all of a sudden, a blue glow emerges from the corner of a room, and a 3-foot tall glowing egg with wings is right there. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if this was me in this situation, I would have thought it was a bomb, especially if you like live alone. Like, who the fuck put it there? And I feel like Ran is not as, I hope it's Ran, I think it might be pronounced Ron. Ran is acting like very nonchalant. I feel like maybe she's like in a state of panic or something like that, but like she literally was like cool. But anyway, she goes over to the egg and she opens it and she finds a blonde man who is very handsome. He got washboard abs, he's got golden hair, but then unexpectedly this handsome man imprints on her kind of like an animal and keeps calling her mom. Now, immediately, to be fair, if I was in her situation, I would have reacted peacefully and probably shot the guy. But Karana's an angel. She's a little high schooler. She's a little stupid, so she just goes back to sleep. There's literally a scene of her just going back to sleep, saying that it might be a dream, and it's just a naked ass man standing next to her. And yeah, that was the first chapter. We're already to a very, very good head start here, but we do have a lot of questions that I want to throw up into the air. Why was the childhood friend being a total butt cheek? Why is there a blonde handsome man coming out of a 3-foot glowing blue egg? Why did I read this story? So episode 2 starts off with Karana revealing that her parents are fucking dead. And because Ulfi, which was her childhood best friend that left her life, she has been feeling unbelievably lonely. And honestly, I kind of feel and relate to her a lot. I moved out relatively young. I was living alone when I was like 18, 19, and I struggled with a lot of loneliness. And I think a lot of you guys can relate to this too, especially if you're like going into college and you're starting to dorm and you have no roommate and it's like the first time you're living without your parents. It gets really hard sometimes. And so jokes aside, I really relate with Karana here. Loneliness can be really, really hard to deal with. Now, obviously it's a little bit different because my parents are alive and hers are in the ground 6 feet under. But jokes aside, I understand how loneliness feels and it can be really hard. And honestly, props to her for that. What the fuck? Anyway, Karana wakes up and old and behold, this handsome man is in her bed completely butt naked. And as she gets up being all confused, she accidentally runs into the egg, and this egg just announces with like a loudspeaker what it is. Congratulations on being the adoptive parent for your Eggnoid. He is the answer to your loneliness. What? So is he like a Tamagotchi or something like that? But while this is going on, Karana looks out of her window and sees that Ulfi is actually on a date with Grace, when usually during this time they would be hanging out. So she obviously does the most reasonable thing possible and immediately goes to the conclusion that she should go shopping with this stranger that hatched from an egg to make Ulfi jealous. Huh? Like, are we really gonna gloss over the fact where he came out of a fucking egg? So immediately Karana just accepts this like Eggnoid idea, which is absolutely insane because but she ends up dressing up the guy with her dad's old clothes. By the way, a quick note, this kid is basically an infant right now. Like, it has the brain capacity of a child, so he doesn't know how to put on clothes. So when she dresses him up and he, you know, he's like in the body of like an adult, she's like immediately kind of enamored with how he's pulling off the clothes like a model, which is a little bit weird. Like, I get it, he's a very handsome looking guy, but he's a kid and he's calling you mom. So yeah, you can kind of see where this is the point of the story where it's gonna be a little bit weird and it kind of has grooming vibes. Now, I don't want to brush over this next moment where she realizes that she should name her child, because this part makes no sense. Naming your child, I think, is one of the hardest things that you can do as a parent, next to raising them, of course. And it usually comes with months of time and thinking. I have seen clips of parents literally just debating on names over and over and over. And of course, Karana, being the adoptive mother of her new son, goes through this as well, before ultimately naming her son Eggy, because he came out of a fucking egg. What the fuck? So anyway, Eggy and Karana go on a shopping journey together. And also Karana, I don't know if I've said this, her nickname is Ran. And immediately everyone is attracted to Eggy's looks. He's a very dashing, blonde young man. I'm sure in the part where this story takes place in Asia, very rare. Girls are looking, I mean, even the guys are looking. But Eggy, he's acting like a kid. And he even asks for a balloon. And it's kind of wholesome. You know, they go shopping, they hang out. And as Ran is about to go buy Eggy some underwear, he's gone. So Ran is obviously freaking out. She's like a mom that lost her goddamn kid. She's thinking that Eggy drowned in the pool or in the fountain, because I did that as a kid, so I can honestly kind of relate to my parents feeling that way. But she eventually sees him in a crowd and accidentally runs into Ulfi and Grace, her previously mentioned childhood best friend, who turned into a prick because he dated some other girl and turned cold on the main character. Now, in this situation, Ran is in a tough spot because she's in the middle of the public. Her adoptive kid is out in the wilderness, and now she runs into her childhood crush that's dating someone else, and she kind of does a ballsy move and asks him, why are you being so distant? And he just says, I don't want to be your friend anymore, which is absolutely up, by the way. This causes her to break down in the middle of the road, and she's crying. And no matter what, I feel like even if he had good intentions or bad intentions, that is the most up thing you could ever do to a best friend, especially if the best friend's parents have died already. And we even later find out that Ulfi and Grace are actually not even dating. Grace talks to him and says, why are you doing that, and not clearing up the misunderstanding that we're dating. Wait, what? Ulfi says that this is for her sake. How is that? How? But anyway, Eggy, the son, the adoptive son, comes running over to her and cheers her up. He calls her mom once again, and they end up going home, with Ran being very, very, very sad, and understandably sad. And this causes her to lash out on Eggy and claim that basically she's just really annoyed, freaking out on him, basically really being annoyed that he's calling her mother and whatnot. But Eggy subverts the expectation. He hugs her and he starts making her heart race, his adoptive mom's heart beating. Boom, boom, boom. But then he falls asleep. That scene, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty cute. You know, it's a mom and a son, they're bonding. But then the part where she's kind of like falling in love with him because her heart's beating faster is a little bit weird. But we're not gonna talk about that, at least not yet. I feel like this story would have been much more better if Eggy and Ran just had a mother and son relationship without the romantic aspect. I mean, I'm guessing that the story has different plans for that, but like just at the beginning, I don't know, just weird. But anyway, here comes another problem. Ran has now got to go back to school, but obviously Eggy can't follow her back to school because Ran is literally raising her. So Ran cooks for him. And while she's at school, she gets really sad because no one's there. Her best friend literally dumped her, saying that it's for her sake, even though her parents are dead and that's the only person in her life. And she feels really lonely. But when she comes back home, there's Eggy to cheer her up and make her feel way better. And honestly, props to him. Now, at this point in the story, I kind of had a vague idea of what it was gonna kind of spiral down into. Like, the childhood friend is gonna either get jealous about Eggy and they're gonna have like some type of dispute. They're maybe gonna fight, and then maybe Eggy does a couple more washboard ab thirst traps, and then eventually they date, and maybe Eggy grows up and then he does like a lot more thirst trapping, and then technically, since he's not a kid anymore, they can date and it'll be way better. Still really weird, but that's my theory. So anyway, you might be wondering, like, why is Ulfie treating Rand like crap? Like, they were literally best friends, and then all of a sudden, boom, cold treatment. Well, turns out it's revealed that Ulfie is doing this for Rand, as we saw earlier in the story, and he actually cares about her a lot. Like a lot. Kind of to the point where it looks a little bit romantic. But Ulfie reveals to Grace that Rand is way too dependent on him. And it's almost to the point where it's hurting her. And honestly, I totally understand that. If you have one singular person that you are way too dependent on in your life, whether it's a friend or it's a partner, then yes, it's very, very toxic. But the thing is, her parents are dead, dog. Like, Ulfie, haven't you thought about the fact that her parents died when she was probably like 8 years old, and she's been living in this house all by herself? Of course she's gonna depend on you more. She has nobody else to depend on. And Ulfie's reasoning for this is that he wants Rand to basically start making more friends, just be more independent and just not rely on him that much, which I totally understand. But why would you cut her off instead of just introducing her to your friends? Like, it just doesn't make sense to me personally. Like, if I was in that situation as a person where someone was depending on me too much, I would introduce them to my family, maybe my friends, maybe take them out more, help them find their own hobbies. But Ulfie just flat out blocks her, dates or fake dates one of her friends, and just gives her the cold treatment to someone that has nobody else in their life. That is up, man. But it is revealed that Ulfie does care about her. He only wants her to be more independent, as weird as he's kind of doing it, but he's doing it and he's adding some distance. So that's why he's doing this fake dating rumor with Grace. And obviously, as a reader, we know that there's going to be some type of altercation, and we're going to assume that it's with Eggy, because he's probably going to get jealous of Eggy or something like that. I've read too many rom-coms, so that's what I'm going to assume. So eventually Rand like sees him talking in the hallway, and she just kind of assumes that they're like still dating. So she breaks down and she basically starts crying. And there's this entire subplot in the story where Rand is kind of like being bullied in school, and the student president, I believe, is like orchestrating the whole thing because she's like jealous of her, but it's not that important, so we're just gonna gloss over it. Yeah, I hope that's okay with you guys. Sorry. But the main important thing that we got to know is that she breaks down on the school like front staircase. We don't have those here, and it's genuinely kind of heartbreaking. You know, she's unbelievably sad, she's lonely, she lost her best friend, her parents are fucking dead, and everyone in school seems to think that she's getting bullied or that they hate her. And it's at this point in the story where I genuinely really feel bad about her. Like, I cannot imagine being in her position and just not wanting to move to like a different school or a different place. But the good part is Eggy's at home. So she goes back home, and Eggy is there and just cheering her up and making her feel better. And it's a pretty heartfelt moment. She says that finally, for the first time in her life, she has someone that she can just rely on. And she even says that if it wasn't for him, she would go meet her parents. That's pretty crazy to say that to a kid that has the mental capacity of like a 7-year-old. Hey son, you know I love you, right? Wow, thanks, Dad. Why are you telling me this all of a sudden? Just wanted to let you know. Truth be told, if you never came out of my wife, I would have had a shotgun up my mouth. Fast forward a couple chapters and we see more of that bullying subplot that's not really relevant to the story. Now Rand and Eggy are kind of getting way better, like along with each other. They've gotten used to their company, and it really just seems like a wholesome mother and son relationship. She's doing her homework as a high schooler, but then all of a sudden she gets a text from her aunt. This is where we're introduced to Aunt Diani. So Rand's Aunt Diani is her father's sister and a very wealthy CEO, and she lives like this lavish life as a young CEO with purple hair and luxury cars. And so she has a lot of time on her hands, and so she does the most reasonable thing possible today, I guess. On the weekends, you know, go visit your dead brother's daughter. But obviously this visit is going to be a little bit problematic because Eggy is there now, you know, the guy that hatched from an egg. So Rand tries to hide Eggy, but then he falls off the roof and he ends up getting caught by Aunt Diani. Diani initially assumes that Eggy is Rand's boyfriend, and surprisingly takes it really well until Rand reveals the truth about Eggy, which I thought was insane. But anyway, Aunt Diani kind of goes with it and believes in this whole Eggnoid like idea, which still blows my mind that Rand and Diani were just like, cool, he hatched from an egg. That's not weird at all. But Aunt Diani is nice, and she decides to stay and help take care of them. Meanwhile, Ulfie is outside and sees Rand talking to another guy and is immediately jealous. It's clear that he still likes her, but he ignored Ran for a really long time, so he can't even text her.
Who are you talking to? I'm the one that blocked you. Who said that you could talk right now?
But after some banter between Aunt Diani and Eggy and Ran, Aunt Diani leaves the room to make a phone call, where it's revealed that she might have now found a clue about her brother's death, which is linked to the Eggnoid. And to be honest, I didn't think there was going to be any plot to this at all. All of a sudden, the story has turned from like this really weird rumor feeling story of an Eggman and a mother loving him to a murder mystery about the Eggman. And for some reason, the aunt knows about it. So anyway, Aunt Diani has like this great idea to help Eggy adjust to modern society. If he's gonna live with them, he should get an education eventually and start meeting new people, kind of like actually raising a kid. So Aunt Diani suggests the idea that they meet Ulfi's family. And obviously Ran is gonna be hesitant. She still, I assume, likes Ulfi and doesn't want to see him because, he's dating another girl, or at least she thinks he is. And also, how about the fact that this is technically her son that is gonna go meet her childhood crush? That is a very weird situation. But anyway, despite her reservations, Ran agrees to the situation and she goes shopping for clothes. And after blushing a lot at her son, who dresses up very handsomely, they go and meet Ulfi. Now, I've been talking for a long time, so I think now we should address the elephant in the room that I know everyone has been thinking, and you might have been wondering, and if you were maybe trying to cancel me, I'm taking it away. Is this not a weird story about grooming and some type of pedophilia type of beat? I don't know, because I have actually almost completed the entire story. I'm about 200 something ish chapters in, and the story kind of evolves into this different thing. But just judging based off of season 1, I think what has happened so far is really weird. It's just the fact that Ran is attracted to her son that she's raising and is very hot. I just think that's very, very weird. I know there's like this trope in Hollywood called the born sexy yesterday trend, and this is this is a rendition of it. I don't really like to get too much into topics like this, but yes, I think the situation is very weird. Ran is literally the adoptive mother of a man that she is attracted to, which is already bad, but then she's also raising him and teaching him how to act while being attracted to him. And honestly, it feels really unsettling to me, which honestly sucks, because at this point of the story, I kind of do enjoy the cute moments. Like Ran and Eggy are pretty wholesome. They do cute things together. But then I forget that he's the you know what I'm gonna say. Honestly, if we just remove the Ran being attracted to Eggy, then this story so far would be fine. But in my opinion, I think her attraction to her adoptive son just complicates things. And yeah, that's just my thought on it. Anyway, let's get back to the story. We're almost done with season 1. Let's wrap it up. And then if you guys have any thoughts, please comment them. I would love to know it. So anyway, Eggy meets Ulfi, whose real name is Ralph Kent. Rolf Kent, which is way better than Ulfi. I still don't know how you got Ulfi. They have dinner and Ulfi is jealous, obviously, and he's curious about Eggy. And Diani explains that Eggy is actually going to be living in the house with Ran and that they're turning the house into a boarding house. With that being said, some drama unfolds as Ulfi tries to spend more time with Ran, which actually makes Eggy jealous. Eggy, being scared of this, insists that they go home, which puts Ulfi on edge, which makes sense. Ulfi still likes Ran, if that wasn't apparent enough. And if a strange man appeared in your childhood crush's life, I would be concerned too. But anyway, chapter 25 starts and Ran is reading Eggy a bedtime story and tickling him to sleep, kind of like a mother and son. And I hate it. Like, it's cute. It's genuinely cute, but it's also really weird. Like, there's literally a scene where it's wholesome and then it's borderline just grooming. But anyway, Aunt Diani invites some people over to investigate the Eggnoid technology behind Ran and Eggy's bed. And they discuss something about Ran's memory loss from a car crash that had killed her parents, and they hint at a very shady corporation that's involved with the Eggnoids. Now, at this point in the story, my theory is that the Eggnoids are dangerous. Maybe they're like robots. They're gonna
kill people.
And so the story has a lot of problems at this point. The Eggnoid technology is mysterious. Ulfi is jealous. Ran obviously still has some type of feelings for Ulfi, but he is giving her the cold shoulder. And now that she has an adoptive son that she is somewhat attracted to, and that son is also attracted to her, that's gonna be a weird sack of potatoes. So this is where I come in. As an author, I propose a solution. Even though the story had ended like a couple of years ago, I propose a solution. I think Ran and Ulfi should get together. They are childhood crushes. They grow up together. They both obviously still have feelings for each other. I think they should get together and adopt Eggy. That way, she still has Eggy in her life. She can raise Eggy, but she and Ulfi aren't awkward, and those two can date because they have feelings for each other. Boom! Oh, wait. I forgot. that doesn't get rid of the fact that she's attracted to her son. But anyway, we find out that Ulfi plans to study overseas, which is the reason why he wanted to distance himself from Ran in order for her to basically just be more independent for when he's gone, which I totally understand, except for the fact that her parents are dead. Now, at this moment in the story, we find out that Diani is leaving the house to go for the capital, to go back to work, which I totally get. You're a young 30-year-old CEO. Props to you, dude. But before she leaves, she installs cameras on the entire house and it has a group of 2 people watching them 24/7. Is that not fucking terrifying? Like, if my parents did that when I moved out into my new house, I would be freaking out. But anyway, we're almost done with season 1, so let's knock these guys out of the park real quickly. In chapter 29, Ran gets a dream about Eggy going to school and how she is kind of scared of losing him because he's gonna be hot, he's gonna be popular, he's probably gonna get a lot of girls, and she's just scared that she's gonna lose her son, or that she's gonna lose the kid that she's raising because she's attracted to and she wants to date him. I actually can't tell. But anyway, in this chapter, Ran ends up making a brand new friend named Salatin, who has actually been noticing this entire time that she's been crying and that she's kind of been getting bullied, and he notices that she's been isolating herself. So they end up going for a walk and they end up talking, and then we find out that his nickname is Satan, which is odd. I feel like that's not a nickname that you want, but okay. But while Ran is talking to Satan about whatever, she ends up finding out that Ulfi is indeed going to go overseas for the scholarship. And so there's this big emotional scene where they confront each other and she's really mad and she's super upset at him until eventually he confesses that he still does care for her. And so they hug and they make up. Meanwhile, at the same time, Eggy is taken to a therapist by Aunt Diani to learn more about his origins. And during with this therapy session, Eggy's sigil on his chest activates, sending a signal to another Eggnoid. Turns out there's more than one. And it's revealed that there are a bunch of Eggnoids and they look pretty scary. This guy looks like Kaneki. And then it's revealed that Aunt Diani explains to Eggy that Rand's parents have died in a car crash and that there are indeed more Eggnoids out there. Boom. The iceberg just got bigger. Where are the other Eggnoids? Why are there so many Eggnoids? Are there other adoptive mothers trying to date their son? Well, in chapter 31, which is the season finale, Aunt Diani explains more about the Eggnoids, and she reveals that Rand's father actually had black hair. Now, this might have not been a very important moment in the story, but personally for me, it was, because you know who else has like a bluish black tone of hair? Ulfi does, which leads me to theorize that Ulfi actually might be Rand's brother, which would explain why they actually can't eventually end up be together. But anyway, Ulfi and Rand talk and they clear up the misunderstandings, ending the season on a positive note. And that's it. That is Eggnoid season 1. Despite the weird mother-son dynamic, in my opinion, the story got pretty interesting. Eggnoids, murder, is she gonna date him or not? It actually leaves me wondering more about who are the Eggnoids? You know, what are they? What are they gonna do? Why does Rand have one? Why is he also super hot? And also, what happened to her parents? But yeah, this video is already a little bit long, and that's just season 1. There's season 2, there's season 3, and there's also season 4, which are actually like twice the length of season 1. I think overall this story has a little bit of weird elements to it. The names are a little bit funky, the relationships are a little bit funky, but the mystery of the Eggnoids, the wholesomeness of Ran and Eggy when they're not being weird, it's pretty wholesome. Like I said in the beginning of the intro, please don't send hate to the author. I genuinely enjoyed this story, and a bunch of people do too. I think it has over 209 million views and 1.4 followers. You know, not a lot, not a crazy amount. I wouldn't want you guys to harass a small author like that. Jokes aside though, I actually enjoyed this series as I read it, and I have read season 2 and I have read season 3 and I'm on season 4. And if you guys genuinely want to see more of this story or this video was compelling, let me know with a comment and a like, because honestly, season 2's crazier and season 3 gets crazy. So yeah, I think if I talk about season 2 and 3 in this one video, it'll make it like a 3-hour long video. So yeah, you guys let me know if you guys want to see more. I will say though, as a spoiler alert, this is a spoiler, which is not really a spoiler because it's pretty obvious. Eggy and Rand do get together, I think in season 3. Which is weird. So yeah, if you guys want to see more about season 1, let me know with a comment and a like, or if you guys want to read it yourself, check out webtoon.com. It's free. You can read it for free. But yeah, by the way, this is my first video on this channel. I've always, you know, loved reading really bad manga, webtoon, just out of the place stories, and I thought this would be a very interesting one, and this is my first time doing a commentary on it, and I hope you guys liked it. I hope you guys had a little giggle wiggle, and I hope you guys will consider subscribing, because if you do, the next video you're gonna get a spicy little present from me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and it's been Adrian, guys. Take care.